nothing is certain, right? Like this morning, for instance, we have had a certain number of registrations, and then we are here, what we are. So that's how the world is, and it's certainly a challenge to steer through these turbulent times. So we thought it would be a good idea to offer and share some kind of expertise, especially in these steering these waters, uh, from a psychological point of view, and then of course from what kind of competencies are today required in the COVID times, and then thirdly, what should we be doing to make ourselves more wanted, more sought after in organizations. So that's the context, that's the trigger for us to have this webinar this morning. We appreciate those of you who have joined, and thank you so much. So let me request our first speaker of the day, that is the first 15 minutes. So the way we have structured it is we have about totally 3 of us, so about 15 minutes each. So between the 3 of us, we'll take about 45 minutes. And post that, we have time for Q&A, maybe another half an hour or maximum 45 minutes if it is required. And some basic housekeeping for all of us when we start this webinar. Make sure your phones are on mute. You can also switch off your videos and also mute your audio. So you can switch on your audio and the video, of course, when we get into the Q&A session. So that will make it easier for all of us to interact and be heard. So now that the housekeeping is clear, should we start this morning? Any other thoughts from Raj and Mian?
Well, I suppose we should start. I will try to go a bit slow so that hopefully those who are joining late, so they can still slowly follow through the session. So I think that's what I'll do. I'll take it more slowly, yeah, just in
Yeah,
case some are still joining in.
good. I think that's a good idea, Mian. And Raj, anything from your side?
Nope, all good.
All good. Okay. All right. So let me just have the pleasure of introducing Mian. She is a well-known clinical psychologist, and she's got a very impressive profile. So let me attempt to give a summary of that. She has worked with families, workplaces, communities for more than 25 years. A successful silver jubilee of clinical psychology practice. And she's also done a vast number of crisis interventions, help organizations steer crises, including the tsunami, the MH370, to name a few. She is also quite well versed in therapy and mindfulness based therapies. She's a trained teacher uh, with the Center for Self Compassion USA. And over the years, she has been interviewed by various local media, including Bella NTV 7 to 4 years now. I think she has a lot more things here, but I don't want to take too much of your time. So I think we'll get to see her as she starts. So over to you, Mian.
All right, thanks, Jagadesh, and for our attendees today. I will have the pleasure of introducing Jagadesh background, also very rich to all of you after my segment. So I will do my segment, and then I will introduce Jagadesh before he, do his segment, and he's also our gracious moderator between the three of us today. So thank you for your generous introduction. And today, what I've planned to share with whoever that attended this webinar, because originally Mr. Raj, who is the organizer of this webinar, has the pure intention of reaching out to people who are challenged with the current COVID-19 pandemic especially at the workplace, which is inclusive of being retrenched. Yeah. So in Malaysia, what I can speak for is in Malaysia, I have been called in to support retrenchment since May. So this is something we know is unavoidable at the workplace due to the global economic recession. We have no choice, but nevertheless, yeah, that's why Raj have this pure intention that let's reach out to people who are impacted, and we would like to equip them, on how to manage from the psychological area to, of course, the HR and job searching area. So for my part, what I would like to share with everyone today is this very, I would say, established change and transition model by the late Dr. William Bridges. I attended Dr. William Bridges training back in 1999. That's how long ago, 21 years ago, I went for the training in Chicago, and therefore I am actually trained to deliver Dr. William Bridges' change and transition model. So usually this is a one-day workshop that I trained managers, executive, people at the workplace on how to manage change and transition. But today I'm given 15 minutes, so I'll just try my best to share with the audience today the gist of this change and transition. And of course, I'm going to speak from the direct area itself. So I'm going to take retrenchment, yeah, as an example of a major change that has happened, and how do we actually use William Bridges' change and transition model to help us to cope. Yeah, so that's what I plan to do. So Raj, can I have my next slide? Yes. So my next slide is change and transition are not the same. Yeah. So that's precisely what William Bridges mean. Yeah, fellow participants. Yeah, because change is the shift in the external environment. Yeah. So which means that whatever that is happening, the
Uh,
major event.
sorry to interrupt. I think we're not
Yes,
seeing the slide.
we are. We are. I can see the slide, but can you guys see the slide?
I can see the slide. I mean, of course, I am transmitting.
How
Okay,
about
fair enough.
Magella and Mr. Asugan? Can you all see the slide?
I can see the slide.
Okay, okay,
Good,
good.
good,
So
good.
Jagadesh side, yeah, you check the technicality. Yeah. Okay, good. So, like what I mentioned, yeah, based on William Bridges' model, change is referring to a shift in the external environment. You can see this, modern picture of an iceberg. That's how I try to represent iceberg, guys, right? So, so a change is usually what we can see externally or on top of the iceberg. Yeah, but we know in every change event or change environment, there's always, yeah, subsequent stages or processes that we go through. For example, a retrenchment. So the day that your manager call you into the room and tell you the bad news that you have to be retrenched, let's say June 4th, right? So that is the major change that happened to you. Yeah, you are being retrenched from your company. But then, after June 4th, it is actually a process or a journey that you have to go through to adapt. And that's what William Bridges called transition, the psychological reorientation in response to that major change. And this transition is the one that William Bridges say need to be processed through. Yeah. So this is where a lot of people struggle. I mean, we know all of us are rational people, right? Economic downturn, economic recession, retrenchment, you know. So rationally, we know, we understand. But psychologically, yeah, it's not easy. Yeah, the feeling that arises, yeah, it's not easy for us to cope. And that is the part that I want to talk about. How do we go through these transitional processes, yeah, after a major change like a retrenchment? Yeah. So that will bring us to the next slide, Raj. I would like to share with everybody, yeah, the stages, yeah, the 3 stages of transition, yeah. So according to William Bridges, yeah, after a major event or a major change, yeah, you don't just accept that something new, you know, you don't just move on, you know, it's not easy to just move on. People always say, oh, we're sorry to hear that you're being retrenched, never mind, look for a job. Yeah, so it's not as easy as that. Yeah, of course, looking for the next job would be the right thing to do. But what happened is that, like I said, below the iceberg, the psychological transition, there are three stages that people go through. Yeah, and all this is actually can't be seen. It is felt in your heart. So people externally see that, oh, you're looking for a job, you're going for interview, you should be fine. But they do not know underneath the iceberg, you could be struggling with all these emotional or psychological experiences that is described in stage 1 to 3. Yeah, so but of course you be the stage 1 to 3 is defined as ending, neutral zone, and new beginnings. But it's very interesting, there is a small stage, it's called pre-ending. I give you an example. Let's say retrenchment is the change event, right, that I choose just now. So before even the retrenchment news is being received by you, yeah, so I'm sure at the workplace, there will be a lot of gossips, rumors, you know, talking about retrenchment is coming to our company. Everybody is highly anxious, high anxiety, and so on and so forth. Or even sometimes people spread fake news and so on and so forth. And, you know, exactly like COVID-19 pandemic too, right? This is exactly what we went through initially, I think in late February and March, yeah? A lot of high anxiety, rumors, gossip, fake news, and everything. So this stage itself is already hard for us to cope. Yeah, the uncertainty is hard for us to cope. But of course, when the news or when that change event is confirmed, let's say come back to retrenchment, so you receive the retrenchment letter. So at the day or at the point when the manager tell you, I'm so sorry to tell you that we have to let you go. So that is the beginning of stage 1, endings. Yeah. So endings refer to, of course, yeah, the grief and loss. Yeah, the grief and loss here refer to the losing of the job in retrenchment. Yeah. So how do we manage this feeling of loss? How do we let go this job that we have been doing for the last 8 years or 10 years or 3 years? Yeah. How do we say goodbye to fellow colleagues? Yeah. How do we have a closure? I actually enjoy my job as a mechanical engineer. Yeah. Now that I lost my job, what am I going to do? So William Bridges clearly described that the first stage of transition is what he called ending stage. Afterwards, I will actually talk about what you can do at the ending stage. Yeah, let me just go through the 1, 2, 3, and then I'll talk about what can we do psychologically to cope with stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. So stage 2 is neutral zone. This is the zone where after you have accepted the loss, and it is what we call the in-between time between the ending, yeah, ending of your that past event or that past position in that company, and before you find, let's say, a new job, the new beginning. So this is the in-between time where he called it neutral zone. And usually in neutral zone is still a lot of confusion, chaoticness, lost in the forest. Yeah, you feel that like, oh my goodness, I need to job hunt again. Hunting for a job is not easy. Yeah, and it's like, you know, everywhere is like, it's like in the forest, like here got tree, there got tree, you know, or, you know, I go into the job street, or I go into LinkedIn, there's so many jobs. What am I supposed to pick? What am I supposed to apply for? Yeah, so that's neutral zone. And of course, the third stages of transition is, of course, when you manage to step into the new beginning. Yeah, assuming in retrenchment situation, that's where you probably, you know, you have got a new job. Yeah, but of course, being a new beginning, even though you got a new job, you still have to embrace the unknown, the new company, the new manager, the new roles and responsibility, yeah, of that new job that you managed to obtain. Yeah, how to be with this new chapter. Yeah, so that is actually the 3 stages, yeah, in general. So let me quickly go to the more detail of each stages, yeah, psychologically, what happened to us and what we can do. Yeah, thanks, Raj. Yeah, this is the one. So like I say, you know, let's say, let me take back the retrenchment as an example at ending stage, yeah. This is where I put there well-managed ending. So the 4 bullet point, it is signs of well-managed ending. That means how do you know you are able to manage your ending stage, yeah? So this is like a checklist. Hopefully it's useful for our audience, yeah? You can check with yourself. Okay, have I understood what is over and what isn't? For example, I understood that my job in this company is over when my boss deliver the retrenchment letter to me. So I understand that is over. But what is not over is I am still this mechanical engineer, yeah, that can do a good job. I'm a hardworking person. So therefore, yeah, that part is not over. And that's the part that is going to help me to go to the new beginning. Yeah. And of course, in ending stage, this is where constant communication of information is very important. You imagine, yeah, at the point that you lose your job. So this is where you need a lot of information. So this is where you probably want to talk to friends or brave yourself to share with your friends this bad news that you lost your job, but ask them for help, for information, or do some networking so that you can find new job. Or this is the part that you probably will look for people like Raj in Talent Heart, right? That help people with job searching, yeah, and job placement. So constant communication of information is very important at ending stage. Search for information, talk to people, yeah. So this is also a stage that you know, of course, you hope that people will listen to you, care for you, and empathize with you. So this is where hopefully you talk to good friends, good family members to provide you support, or like I say, good HR professional like Raj and Jagadish, right? People who can guide you on how, you know, from the HR perspective on to look for a new job, for a new beginning. Yeah. And of course, before anything else, acknowledge for yourself your feeling of loss or feeling of grief. It is a grief and loss in retrenchment. Yeah. So that's ending stage. That's how you can hopefully help to facilitate within yourself psychologically to go through the ending stage. And of course, you know, naturally at all these psychological stages, they will move on. Yeah. So the next zone that you move into is, remember what I say, the in between ending and new beginning. So this is the time that this is how you can checklist yourself. Have I moved from ending to neutral zone? So this is where you can check yourself. My mind. Sometimes I feel hopeful at one moment, then the next moment I feel despair. Right, that is neutral zone. A zone that is still, like I say, full of confusion. One, today you may feel hopeful because you managed to get an interview next week. Tomorrow you may feel despair because you don't even get a single news on the new job or new interview. Yeah, so your psychological waves, yeah, that's why I call it serving the waves of uncertainty. So it's like a wave inside your heart, you know, the feelings and emotion is like a wave. Yeah, so that's neutral zone, a time of chaos, but great creativity and innovation. Dr. William Bridges clearly point out to us that in neutral zone, even though you feel very chaotic or confused, or you know, sometimes hopeful, sometimes despair, please remember, this is a zone that you can be creative and innovative, which means that in the midst of the unknown, yeah, the in between, this is where, if you, like I say, you know, you reach out to people, you get help, you get support, yeah, or you try to think out of the box. I'm a mechanical engineer, but I'm not going to only focus on applying job as a mechanical engineer. Maybe I will also search for a subset of job description, yeah, of a mechanical engineer. Yeah, I'll leave Raj to talk about that part at the third segment. Yeah, So you look for a job not only specific to your current area, but try to look at the sub area. That's the creativity and innovation part. And of course, encourage and appreciate yourself, yeah, because you're trying your best to do things differently. And of course, new beginning is rare, of course, the stage where, you know, you got the new beginning. But again, I need to alert and remind you, even though, let's say, at the new beginning, of course, in retrenchment, is like you got a new job or you got a new opportunity to do something else. Yeah, it is still a process to fine tune your picture, your plan, and your parts. Your new picture, plans, or parts. I put it the 3 Ps. Yeah, you still need to work hard. Yeah, to fine tuning this new beginning. And of course, always remember to appreciate yourself. Yeah, because in this whole process of change and transition, you go through these 3 stages of transition with a lot of emotional and psychological experiences that you've gone through. So please remember to appreciate yourself or your new knowledge, new skill, new effort, new behavior, and hopefully that will bring you more new successes. Yeah, so that's basically the 3 stages of transition, the psychological transition that everyone will go through. Every one of us will go through this for sure whenever a major change happens to us. So that's it. Yeah. So this segment I have shared with you. So the take-home learning is the iceberg. Remember, the change and transition are not the same. Change is simple. Everybody can see the top of the iceberg. Oh, you lost your job. That's easy to sympathize, right? But we ourselves who are experiencing that major change is the transitional stages, the 3 stages that we ourselves have to facilitate ourselves through the endings, the neutral zone, and hopefully reach the new beginnings. Yeah. So this is what I have in a very short manner to share with everyone about change and transition. Yeah, especially how do we serve this wave of uncertainty at the workplace, yeah, due to COVID-19 pandemic. We have no choice. We have to brave ourselves to face all these major changes that's happening to us, personal level, family level, workplace. And in fact, we can have several changes happening to us at the same time. So I hope my sharing on these 3 stages of transition by Dr. William Bridges can give you a very quick glimpse of how psychologically you can support or facilitate yourself through a major change. So with that, I pass over to Jagadesh, for his next segment. Yeah, so this is the end of my segment. And while Raj is pulling up the slide for Jagadesh segment, part 2, so probably I will have the privilege, yeah, to introduce Mr. Jagadesh, which is our moderator for today, and also, of course, our second speaker for our webinar this morning. So again, yeah, Mr. Jagadesh is also a very experienced people. Let me try my best to summarize his profile, yeah, which is very rich, yeah. So let me introduce him officially, yeah. Mr. Jagadesh is actually based in Bangalore, India, and he's currently, yeah, the associate consultant with Seville and Holsworth Limited in India, and also the practice head at Leap to Excel Consulting. Till 2017, yeah, actually Jagadesh was heading the human resource segment. He's the HR director of Danfoss in India, yeah, and of course Danfoss is a big multinational globally. So Jagadesh was heading the HR for the India side. So, and of course, prior to Danfoss too, yeah, he has actually been at the helm of HR leadership role in different India businesses, local Indian businesses, and also the multinational company. Yeah. So, and he's also very active supporting, and like today, he's supporting this webinar. Yeah. As a HR consultant or senior. So Jagadesh actually was heading the Confederation of the India industry of oil, um, and guests, and also the Chamber of Commerce and Industry too. So of course, yeah, he comes with more than 2 decades of HR experiences, going through merger and acquisition, and organization transformational activities in all the different company that he has supported throughout his HR career. So rightly so, he's our second speaker for today's webinar. So with this, I pass over to Mr. Jagadesh for his sharing this morning. Yeah, Jagadesh, please take over from me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mian, for that very generous, introduction. Thank you so much. Now, can you share? See the screens, all of you? Is it visible? Thank you.
Can be
It is,
seen, yes.
yeah, it's visible, but you need to enlarge. Put it on the.
Okay. Thanks for that tip. All right. Okay. Well, thank you, Mian, for that beautiful introduction that you gave me. I think you also took a very beautiful example of the iceberg in your segment. Icebergs are in all of our management science and research. We use that example extensively because if you really look at an iceberg, what is seen is just a small portion of it at the top, but what is not seen is so much below. And I think that's truly the kind of whether you look at the COVID situation or if you look at organizations today, what are they looking for? They're looking for behaviors which are visible, not like the iceberg, right? Which is unknown. And if you see the corporate situation, uh, everyone, even just as we in the other side of the table want jobs and opportunities, corporates also wants good people, competent people. And that's how people like Raj are in demand, because they are the ones who try to match the needs of the individual and the organization. So just as much as we want, they too want good, competent people. And so, what are these competencies? And what exactly is a competency? Now, for instance, if supposing I and you meet, and then in the first meeting itself, would you trust me with your wallet? You wouldn't, right? You would definitely be careful. You would want to watch me. You would want to see, how am I? Am I trustworthy? And it takes a while for you to get there, to develop that trust, that confidence. And I should also inspire the trust and confidence. So this is what is behavior that is watched. And in organizations, although we call it as competencies, these are behaviors which are seen when we perform or we do not perform. Now, if you look at the pre-COVID situation, that is before the onset of COVID, we had leadership competencies, which are, when you say leadership, it is a word that is used in a generic sense. It also applies to heads of departments. It could be a team leader also, or it could be even for a function. So it could also be for an organization. So that's how generically it's applied. But the fact remains that these competencies are universal in nature. And that's how in Savile and Holdsworth, we have a list of universal competencies which has been researched over the years. And these are arrived at the competencies that are required. It's also possible because in some organizations, they may be in a different stage, like some organization may be, actually going through a merger and acquisition, or some other organization may be growing dramatically. So they may have one or two additional competencies which are very contextual. But by and large, the universal competencies apply. And the entire premise of competencies or competency-based behaviors is that all of us are not talking about the technical or proficient part of it. That is what you call as the professional or technical skills. That is one side of it. But what is seen according to management research, is 70% of our performance or non-performance is determined by the behaviors we demonstrate in organizations. The personality is what matters. And that's how, Mian talked about the psychology, and high psychology is so well respected is because it impacts so much the personality. So if you look at the way the management research looks at, and these are real facts, that it's by and large the personality that determines the success or otherwise in organizations. It's not just a hierarchy. For instance, just to give you an example, you may have two managers in the same organization. One could be much more effective and successful. Manager B may not be so successful. So what is that differentiates them? They have the professional or technical skills, but there's something else that differentiates, because hierarchy or position or, the title can give so much of authority, but what a person brings to the table, the influence part, the soft part, is what makes a success or otherwise. And that's how behavior competencies are very relevant. So here are the couple of them which was being seen or factored in the pre-COVID situation. Things like how we lead, how we get jobs done. If we are having people in our teams, that's called leading and supervising. Some of us may not be having a team, but still you need to network with so many others in the organization. How do you get those things done without having the hierarchy or the power or the position? So that's again your ability or your behavior or your competency to get things done in leading or supervising people who report to you or who don't report to you. And that happens in many multinational organizations. We are matrix organizations. We don't really report to people, but we still need to get a lot of things done, right? Now, similarly, things like working with people, networking, how relevant it is, isn't it? All of us recognize that in today's world, in a very connected world, what matters is how well we are in connecting and networking with people. How are we good in communicating, planning, and how are we good in bringing new thoughts, new ideas into action? Because change is the only thing that's permanent, So customer is so critical to organization success. This could be an internal customer, it could be an external customer. So that is how the behavioral framework was before pre-COVID. I'm just giving one set of examples for you. Now, what has changed today, and how does context impact? There was a lot of debate. We recently did a kind of a survey, and we were just debating what determines a competence or a behavior that is required. The context, the circumstances make a tremendous impact. For instance, Mian talked about, the whole situation of uncertainty. And that's again an uncertain atmosphere. And if you look around in the COVID situation, so many things are certain and so many things are uncertain. So the uncertain part is much higher today. So that is how the context decides what is the competence or the behavior that organizations are looking for. What they were looking for in the pre-COVID is not so relevant in the COVID, right? For instance, you are driving through a highway. It is a sunny, warm day, and it's a beautiful day, a lot of light. Is driving so much of a challenge there? It may not be. But let's say you have suddenly a rain or a storm coming in. There's a lot of water all around. You're putting the wipers. It's furiously trying to drive through where the visibility is much, much lesser. So what happens then? Your driving is not that comfortable, right? You need to bring in those set of competencies or those skills you have in driving to steer through that turbulent, rainy weather or a stormy weather. So it is again, that is what is called as the context, the circumstances, the atmosphere around you. And the same thing happens in the organizations today. Organizations are going through turbulent times. They don't know when the entire business cycle will come back to what was there before. And that really means you need to bring in whole lot of new set of competencies or behaviors that are very relevant to steer through this turbulence, right? So what are the new set of competencies that are more, relevant in today's context? Let's have a look at them, okay? Now, in these uncertain times, one of the behaviors when we did the research and when we talked to CEOs, business heads, we also spoke to thought leaders and management practitioners. And these are the 6 competencies they felt is very relevant in these uncertain COVID times. And this is called as 4C and 2A. Now, what are these? For instance, the first one is about courage. And I think that's exactly what even Mian was telling, how you need to take stock of your situation in an uncertain situation and still go through and calm yourself and neutralize yourself. And that is where the competence or the behavior comes into action. How confident are you? How are you able to take bold and decisive decisions or outcomes? How do you, influence them despite so much of ambiguity, so much of uncertainty? When everything is known, it's a different scenario. But in today's context, nothing is known. So you may not get all the information you want. You just don't have all the data you want, but still you need to move on and make decisions. That's how the behavior or the competence behavior called courage, which I'm sure all of us are aware, is much more relevant today. Now, there's another thing called compassion. How is compassion relevant? You have situations today when people are going through, like what Mian said, job losses or job pay cuts, or somebody could be going through a medical situation. How good are we in connecting to that? Are we calm? Are we genuine? And are we able to empathize? And it doesn't mean that we need to be having teams. It could be even a co-worker. A co-worker is having a problem. They have a medical situation at home. Is that we can do something? Can I take some of that load? Can I be proactive? Can I be of some help? That's compassion, not necessarily leading leading a team. It could be even small things of what you do to feel for the concern or the situation or a problem one of your fellow workers at the workplace or at home is going through. And communication is something that is all through wanted, and more so in these kind of situations. Like Mian said, there is so much of uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen. So what can reassure all of us? We need to communicate, we need to connect, we need to collaborate. And what is more important is how transparent we are. That's very, very critical. Are we really genuine and open about it? And all said and done, customers is what makes all the difference. I'm sure all of you agree that it is the customer who pays our salaries, who pays our money. If there is customer, there is business. If there is no customer, there is no business. So how much are we centering around the customer concern? And that's how you see, for instance, in the lockdown situation, organizations are going out of the way. What are the banks doing? They're trying to encourage more of online. What are companies like Amazon trying to say? They have ramped up so that they can supply groceries and other essentials home. So it's again connecting with the customer in the context of what they're going through. And that's what makes an organization successful. And I think the same applies to us. For us, we need to connect with our managers, with our organizations. What is the need today? We may be working earlier with a certain set of situations, but today what are we working with? Are we connecting with the need? That is very, very critical. And of course, are we taking the right actions? Are we there in terms of making sure we are doing a lot of activity, and are we mistaking activity for achievement? Or are we really getting things done right on there on the ground, Like somebody was telling, oh, I'm so busy. I've been running around this. I've been doing that. Okay, a lot of activity. But what is that you really did in terms of result? And that's what organizations are looking as a competency behavior. And lastly, and not the least, are we adaptive? Are we quick to learn these new requirements? Are we quick to sensitize ourselves about what the organization or your customers are looking for? Are we having the stomach for change? Are we able to adapt to the new tools and technology, whether it is online or whatever? So these are the kind of things that today organizations are looking for, right? Because organizations also are going through uncertainty. And then I was just also looking at the trends today. On the one hand, there are situations where organizations are shedding jobs, but they're also adding new jobs, and that is the good news. Now, for instance, in the field of HR, where Raj and I come from, we recently did a survey, and this has also been done by Cognizant. And these are the new set of jobs that organizations are looking for. What is one of them? For instance, work from home facilitator. Because in the COVID scenario, even in manufacturing, when we never thought work from home is a possibility, today people are looking at work from home, right? So that is the reality. And similarly, if you look at the kind of data we have, we've got so much coming in on the online form. It's not like you can walk across and get things sorted out, but you need to also do your own analysis of that. And especially in functions like marketing and sales and HR, we have a lot of data coming. Are we able to really deweed and only look at data that is more relevant to us? So these are some of the things that are emerging today in terms of jobs, the new jobs, new opportunities. I'm sure, similarly, if you look at marketing and sales, you have a lot more coming, like online deliveries or digital marketing. So these are the new needs that are emerging. The point is, are we able to connect to the new? And that is what makes it easier for us, or more possible for us, to get into new opportunities. And mind you, nobody is an expert, for instance, in the area of work from home facilitator. But what still makes the difference is, if we have that initiative as a behavior, if we are able to volunteer and say, I can also do that, I think we get into that slots, those new opportunities. So what is really needed in organizations today is, are people able to take that first step, take the initiative, and move on? That's where I think we're all getting into. This is it from me in a nutshell. I just wanted to share with you what the new world is looking like. And I think we will take the Q&A as we come to the closure of all the three segments. Now, having said that, let me now request Raj to do the honors of the next segment. And before that, I have the privilege of introducing Raj, who is actually the genesis for this webinar today. And rightly so. I think he came up with this idea, and we thought it's a brilliant idea because in India, for instance, we are running what is called as mindfulness sessions. And we are also doing things like open webinars on new competencies and so on and so forth. This is not a priced one, but more to help as an offering so that we connect with people today who are really going through a situation. So let me quickly do the introductions for Raj. As I just told you, he is the person who brought us all together for this webinar. Thank you so much, Raj, for creating this platform. He is the founder of Talent Hut. I think that's the right place to go if we're looking for a job today. So he is actually the founder of Talent Hut. But prior to that, He has worked long years, more than 25 years to be precise, in multinational companies. He has headed HR. He has headed the regional HR for Asia Pac region. I remember him traveling every other day to so many countries because he had a vast geography to manage. And in the process, he has also hired more than 100,000 people in his 25 years of experience. And now he's doing more of that as a founder of Talent Hut. He's also a trainer, and he has been helping organizations. He has been helping individuals in terms of as HR managers and hiring managers, and how to interview, how to train, how to select. So these are his what you call very, very visible competencies, if I may use the word. So having known Raj, I think we shouldn't waste no more time, but to listen to him. Let us get from Raj some nice tips. How do we manage these kind of situations? How do we make ourselves more marketable? And how do we get into those new opportunities that we talked about? Can Raj help us there? Raj, over to you. We're waiting to listen to your tips.
Thank you, Jagadish. Okay, first and foremost, I'd like to thank you, Mian and Jagadish, for accepting my invitation for this presentation to provide support for those people who need to look for a new job. Thank you very much. Now to all the participants, okay, I would like to kind of share with you we in Talent Hut, we do actually provide recruitment services and HR consultancies to multinational companies as well as SMEs. And we do receive a lot of resumes, okay, people who are currently searching for new jobs, either they are unemployed or their organization is shaky because of this current crisis, okay. We try to help as much as possible. This is one of our CSR, corporate social responsibility initiative. And one of the common things that come out, I observe is people are rushing, they are getting worried. So that's the reason I invited Mian, who has a lot of experience providing counseling and coaching to individuals to go through the transition in their life, okay. And my focus is going to be purely on for people who are going to look for jobs, okay. Bear in mind, losing a job, okay, is not necessarily a bad thing, okay. I have personally seen experiences where the employee who kind of lost a job, they come out with a better, better solution for themselves. Okay, if I can give you some example, a chemical engineer who's working with Schlumberger, after some time he decided that the engineering job is not his cup of tea. He decided to actually enter into e-commerce, and now he is doing multi-millions. So he was getting, as a fresh graduate, he was getting about 5,000 ringgit with Schlumberger, okay, as a oil rig engineer. And then after doing self-analysis, he called it a day and he said he liked to be his own boss, and he started his e-commerce company. And last year he was interviewed by Bloomberg, okay, as one of the youngest entrepreneur who's making $1 million. So that's why I say that when we are in certain life-changing moments, it's better for us to do a self-analysis, analyze what are the key skills and competencies as well as the interest that we have. That will help us to actually, go through that stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 that was explained by Mian. Okay, question that we need to ask is whether we have any preference in terms of industry and match it with the economical situation. For example, the hotel industry as well as the airline industry is down. any of us are in this industry, then we need to make a decision whether we want to still stick to it or we want to consider some other option, including being a freelancer, because currently one of the hot thing is gig industries. Gig industries where they actually doesn't work for one employer, they work for multiple organizations because they have a specific skill which they can actually provide to multiple companies like IT, SAP. Okay, they work on a project basis and so on. And some people are working on a second income, okay, and which it could be a dream job. So if you are in that kind of situation where the workload has drastically increased and need to take a pay cut, consider this as a good opportunity for you to venture into that kind of things and so on. Other area is what are the positions, okay, what is your passion about it, and also look at your personal situation. If you are a mother and taking care of your children is important, therefore location consideration will be one of the key things. So please do the self-analysis before you start applying. The reason why I'm saying that, because we do actually receive a lot of resume, and then when we start screening them, then we realize they are applying just out of desperation. And when they go for the screening, then we say there is a mismatch and they don't get selected. So I know candidates who actually attended like 10, 15 interviews in 2 weeks, but they never get the offer letter because when being screened by the hiring manager, they say a mismatch. Okay, so that's why it's important to do a self-analysis. Now moving on to the next stage is, okay, when we need to look for a job, the standard one with that, what we will do is, we look at the job portals. Example like Indeed, LinkedIn, Naukri, Seek, JobStreet, JobsDB. Okay, so first of all, we need to know, okay, if you're looking for a certain country, which job portal will be much more efficient. It could be like if it is in Malaysia, Singapore, JobStreet. If it is Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, JobsDB. Singapore will be LinkedIn, JobStreet. Okay, and Indeed also is coming very prominent to look for a job. And throughout my experience, when we actually advertise in job portal, there will be at least about 200 candidates applying for one positions. But when we actually go to the screen, out of the 200, it is sometimes very, very fortunate if you're able to get 5 who meet the minimum requirements. So we do actually get a lot of mismatch applications, okay? And it can work in a negative way for a candidate who's looking for a job. Because just imagine if the recruiter is for one particular position is screening 200 candidates and the candidate is applying for 10 jobs, you know, so when the recruiter go to second or third job and he sees the same name is applying for a mismatched job. So when he's come to shortlisting for a suitable job, even the candidate is suitable, the recruiter is going to skip because, you know, a branding has already been established. This candidate is desperate and he could be applying for a job that is not relevant for him or no skill for in that area. So please also consider other options that where you are able to know which are the companies still hiring for type of people that the skill that you have. Okay, example like association, chartered public accountant or ICHAM, okay, HVAC. So you know, so this organization will know, and the employer also do advertise in that. Another one is use your network like your former colleagues, ex-boss, okay, alumni, okay, to find to identify which are the companies still hiring. Another one is company web portal. Big companies like Honeywell, General Electrics, okay, they actually use the company web portal as a branding. At the same time, also help them to source a candidate. Other area is online forum. So if you go to the online forum, okay, example like LinkedIn, there are so many online forum and they do advertise, they say they are looking for this type of people. That could be another area for candidate to look for a job, and also employment agencies. Now, when applying for job, please make it easier for the hiring manager to shortlist you. Gone are the days where the resume is like 10 pages, 15 pages, and so on. Okay, it is you know, 1-2 pages and easy for the recruiter to identify whether this particular candidate has a skill will make it higher chances of that particular candidate is being selected. I'm attaching here as one example of a resume that you can consider. And in the resume, if you can see, okay, to make it easier, they will have a summary or career objective. Okay, and there you can list down what are your specific skills and qualifications. Okay, that will make it easier for the hiring manager to shortlist. I have received resume, even including a very experienced person. And when I pick up the phone and say, I look at your CV, your work with all the big players, okay, like Google, Honeywell, and so on. But I could not determine whether you are applying for a purchasing job, procurement job, okay, or business development, okay. So just imagine, as a recruiter, if I'm not able to kind of establish whether this person is suitable for uh, one of the field, who am I going to shortlist out of the 200 people who are going to make it easier? The other key things that you need to put it in is about key skills and qualification that is being requested from the job. So please take a few minutes to review the JD, okay, and also the environment that you may have to work. A good employee usually describe the environment. For example, if you're in a customer service, so the person need to be very prepared to handle very angry customer and abusive languages and so on. So those kind of the environment. So, and if you want to kind of to impress that, you need to kind of list down in your key competency, okay, how do you handle difficult customers, negotiation scale, customer orientations. These are what the competency that we will be looking for. Other area is like in terms of the certifications, okay. So if you have like a certification like Cisco CCIE, okay, or any other software skills like SACS, if you are offshore structural engineer, okay, that will make it easier for the shortlisting of the candidate by the recruiters. Please bear in mind, voluntary works and interest also actually give us a good indicator of the behavior of the candidate. We remember the two earlier speakers talk about the behavioral part, okay? So when you join an organization and you work on a voluntary work, it actually gives us whether you have, you know, based on what you describe in that, whether you have what you call leadership skill or ability to work in the teams and so on. I keep it simple, I already kind of covered. Let's move on, okay? And another important thing for you to remember when you kind of trying to get a new jobs and so on, the power of networking, okay? And power of networking can work in a beneficial way in many areas, not limited to only looking for jobs, okay? If you are connected with all the experts and you're working in one technical problem, it's easy for you to pick up the phone and talk to them, and they're able to give you some idea and their experiences, how they solve the problem and so on. Likewise, you know, you can use your power networking to help your job search. So reach out to your people who may have that knowledge, talk to them and say that you are in transition and you're looking for, you like to move up and looking for an opportunity, okay? And please continuously build your personal brand, okay? It's not just, you know, you attend a networking session and then just drop it. Because after that, you know, like for myself, I'm receiving resume almost every day, every single day I receive a new resume. People who keep in touch with me and share what they're doing and what will be they're doing on a periodical basis, rather than nagging, I do really appreciate. And likewise, you know, you also can use enhance your personal brand by writing article or volunteering to become a speaker or volunteer to help in certain projects, okay? And also your testimonial, from your former company or former boss and certification awards, okay, are the ways to enhance your personal brand, okay. And then seek a person with the influence to become your mentor who are able to give you feedback. A stranger will be usually a bit more cautious to give feedback because they do not know how they are going to, how you're going to respond and so on. So that will be also coming. Now, there are also ways when you're kind of reaching out to your network to ask for help. As Jagadish said, quite a number of you, first time you're meeting Jagadish. And if he's going to ask you for your wallet, will you be comfortable to give the power to manage your accounts, his finances and so on. Likewise, if just imagine this is your first encounter with Mian and Jagadish, and straight away you're asking, okay, for a job, you may put them on a defense mode, okay? Myself, my main business is actually from executive search. Of course, I don't mind, and I try to help as many as people as possible. But if you're talking to some other people who are not in the same industry as mine, you may put them on a defense mode because they may not know you very well. So there are ways to ask for help. You may say, can we actually, I'm actually in the transition mode. I am like to move on to my next career, and I'm looking for this type of role. So please do let me know. So if they have an opening, they will tell you immediately, okay? Or when they come across in the future, and if you have created a positive impression, visibility in their mind, they will be open to connect you there. Now let's move on to, okay, this is what I was talking about. Don't ask the job directly, ask indirectly. For example, ask them to let you know if they knew any career opportunity that may suit you. And relationship take time to foster. Keep the relationship warm. Birthday wishes, festive, share latest trend, and ensure the connection is warm. Now, when you've been shortlisted, okay, please bear in mind, you need to do a lot of preparation. Do the research about the company and positions. And if you speak to experienced recruiters and hiring manager, they will tell the first 5 minutes, they are able to make an impression whether you meet the minimum criteria or don't. So the 5 minutes, it is for you, it's a golden opportunity for you to show your enthusiasm, energy, and as well as interest to impress the hiring managers. So when you do that, and how can you do that? By doing the research about the company and the positions and so on, and how can you be a good match for that? Then the rest of the interview, they will collect the information to compare with another 2 or 3 who meet the minimum requirements, okay? And you also can place yourself in the hiring manager's shoes and prepare a list of questions that you may need to answer, okay? Google, you can do a Google search. If you're in a leadership role, what are the questions and so on, there's a lot. I can't cover all that in 15 minutes. Prepare some good example of past challenges that you handle effectively. For example, if you're a team manager, okay, and they said, how do you resolve conflict within your team members who have a bad chemistry? Then you need to kind of explain, this was the situation, this was the role of the person A, this is the role of person B, and the issue was this, what action you've taken, and what is the result, okay? So that's what, so you give them, they call it the star format, situation stars, and what your action, and what is the result. These are the ways to improve. And also prepare yourself to answer any question on what is your area for development. So you need to kind of prepare, if the question comes out, how are you going to answer, okay? And then close with the positive news. And please, before going in the interview, practice, practice, practice. And after the interview, follow up with your thank you note. Bear in mind now, with the crisis, there's a lot of interviews taking place online. So please make sure your online connection is good, okay? And what do you call it? And if you need to, stand in front of the Zoom, okay, or any other tools, okay, to what do you call, to practice and so on. I do have experience, you know, when I start the interview, then only they're trying to download that particular applications. Okay, that doesn't create a good impressions. So that's it from me. Back to you, Jagadish.
Sorry, that was muted. Thank you so much, Raj. These are very relevant suggestions and tips you gave. I'm sure all of us in these uncertain times value those inputs, and we need to factor that and move on. So thank you for that very nice articulation. Having said that, Raj, I think now we are opening up to Q&A, Raj and Mian. We already have a question here, and
but can we stop recording, guys? Because I think it will be much more better and comfortable for the participants if we do not record the Q&A. Yeah. So of course, our sharing